Hi everyone, welcome to Hiroshi's Aloha Kitchen. This channel is dedicated to my dad to showcase his amazing culinary skills. His current generation of friends know him for his bonsai skills, but not his culinary abilities, and I would like to share his recipes with all of you. Today we'll be making Swiss steak Hawaii local style. This was a very popular dish at my dad's store many years ago. Normally when you make Swiss steak, you would take like a round steak or a chuck steak, and you would just beat the hell out of it with a meat tenderizer and cook it in a tomato-based sauce. So this one's going to be different, but before you knock it, please try it. I'm sure you'll enjoy it, and let me know what you think. So let me get the ingredients and let's get started. The ingredients we'll be using today: 2 round onions. These are just sweet onions. I like sweet onions. Always. We always use sweet onions. We don't use anything else. Frozen peas, not canned peas, frozen peas. Celery sticks. 1 carrot. Actually, I'm just going to use half a carrot. And we'll be using this for the broth more than anything else. We won't be using it in the actual making of the Swiss steak. 2 teaspoons of salt, and this is a fine grind sea salt. You can use table salt, you can use whatever type of salt you want. It's just we prefer using the sea salt. 6 cloves of garlic, half a teaspoon of black pepper. The meat we use is a chuck roast. This is about 3 pounds of a chuck roast, and we'll be cooking this in the Instant Pot first for about 25 minutes. Then we'll be cutting it up and then making the actual Swiss steak meal. Also, we're going to need 1 cup of all-purpose flour, and we'll use this to make the roux for the gravy, to thicken up the gravy. So first what we'll do is we'll get our vegetables into the Instant Pot. So I've got about 3 pieces of celery, and this really, you just rough cut it. I just cut it in half. And all this is going to do is we're just going to put these in the Instant Pot along with the meat while we're cooking it. And this is just going to be our seasoning for the broth, right? It's just going to add flavor to the broth. So like I said, I'm only going to use half a carrot. I didn't even peel these. That's fine. The onion, I kind of sort of cleaned up the onion already. And we're just going to use maybe a half an onion. We'll just rough cut it into halves. So we'll just use half this onion, and you can just leave it whole. That's fine. I don't even, you can break it up if you want. It really doesn't matter, because this is just going to be, like I said, for our broth. The cloves of garlic, we're just going to smash them and put it in there. Again, we won't be eating any of these except for the meat, obviously. There we go. And of course, we'll just get our chuck roast in there, put it in there just like that. And then we're going to add some water to it. The water level, you can put whatever water level you like. Just make sure you don't exceed the max line. Normally, we go all the way up to the max line, because this is going to be the gravy that we're going to use. So we're going to use this beef stock in here for the gravy. While our meat is in the Instant Pot, we'll go ahead and start cutting up our vegetables for making this Swiss steak. So we'll go ahead and get our onion cut up. This is the half onion from that whole onion I cut to put into the broth in in some squares. That's not quite a square, but you get the idea. You're talking maybe about a half inch to an inch in size. Take the other onion. So I'm using 1 whole onion. Remember, I started out with 2 onions. I put half in the Instant Pot, and then this, I'm only going to use half of this onion. And we'll do the same thing. Next, I have about 16 stalks of celery. So we'll just cut maybe half at a time. And here we're gonna go about half inch. We're just making it about half inch thick. Great, we're done. We'll just wait for the meat to cook and we'll get going in just a little bit. Now that our meat is done and our button has dropped on the Instant Pot, it's safe to open the lid. So I'm gonna get it opened and I'm gonna skim all the fat and the oil off the top. Then we'll strain it, let the meat sit and cool while we make our gravy. Okay, so I'm just gonna get the oil skimmer. And we're just gonna get all this oil out of here. Okay? This thing works great. This skimmer, you can get these at any Asian hardware store. You might find it at some Asian markets. So this looks like that it's good enough. There's a little bit left, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Got most of the oil out. I'm gonna go ahead and strain this, but I'm gonna keep the broth that it's in because the broth is gonna be our base for our gravy, all right? Okay, so I've got the meat out of the Instant Pot. The broth, the beef broth is strained out. I'm gonna let this meat sit for about 20 or so minutes. And then I'll get this broth into the pot, make my roux, and start making the gravy. Okay, now we're gonna make our roux. And it's really not a roux. I'm just adding the 1 cup of flour. I probably won't even need all of that. And we're gonna put some water in here, but just about maybe a cup and a half of water, something right in that area right there. That's gonna be about a cup and a half of water. And then we're gonna whisk this. And really when you're making a roux, you should be cooking in the flour along with some oil or butter. But we kind of cheat this system on this one, and we're just doing it. I'm just going to use an electric whisk. Okay, that looks like it's pretty good. We've got some consistency there. It's just starting to stick to the whip. I had to add in about another half a cup of water, so really I went with 1 cup of flour, and we put in 2 cups of water. So now that our meat has cooled a little, we can go ahead and cut this meat. Now we're just gonna cut this in about 2 by 2 inch squares. And you always wanna cut across the grain. And with these roasts, the grain runs several different ways. Like this piece here, the grain's going this way. This one, the grain's going up this way. So you'll have to cut this way. But this piece is a little different. So we'll go ahead and cut this in half to make it just easier for us to handle. And this meat looks great. So we're gonna cut this, we're just gonna slice it in thin slices, and we're gonna make this into about 2 inch squares, okay? That's it, just 2 inch squares. And we'll make it maybe about a 1/4 inch thick.
If you were to eat it,
you can.
It tastes good?
Yeah, well it's kind of bland, but try it.
That was really bland. It's good. I mean, it would be good.
Good though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, our meat is all cut up. You can go ahead and taste a piece, and you can see how tender it is. If it's not tender enough, then you would cook it in your gravy mix longer. Or before you start making the gravy, as soon as your stock comes up or your beef broth comes up to a boil, you go ahead and start throwing it in, let it boil for about half an hour, get it nice and tender, then start throwing in your vegetables, and then throw your roux in and your seasonings to finish it up. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and get the gravy going, get this in, get the vegetables in, get my seasonings in, and we'll be done soon. I'm having to do a voiceover for this part. I forgot to turn the mic on. Oops. So, uh, so the meat was tender enough, so it did not need to be cooked any longer. You want your meat to be fork tender and not falling off the bone. It should have like a body to it, right? So if your meat wasn't tender enough, you'd be putting the meat in now, letting it cook until it becomes to the tenderness that you want. Then you add in the celery. But in this case, we're just going to go ahead and add in the celery. We'll put the onions in, and then we'll go ahead and get the salt and pepper in. Get back up to a slow boil. Then we'll add in our meat. Once this gets to a slow boil, we'll just add our meat in and we'll let it come back up to temperature again. Once it comes back up to temperature, we'll cut the heat and then we'll start to thicken it with the roux that we made earlier. I'm not gonna change the temperature that I'm cooking this at. I just keep it at about a medium heat and let it come back up slowly. Dad liked to cook everything low and slow, so that's what I'm gonna do. If you're in a rush or you need to get this meal done, and then it's okay. You can just turn the heat up to like a medium high and let it come up to that slow boil. Once it hits there, then you just go ahead and cut the heat. But for us, we just everything on this meal will be low and slow. Now that we have the heat back up to a slow boil, we can go ahead and add our roux in and start to thicken this up, right? But what I'm going to tell you is when you using a roux, you want to turn the heat down. You don't want that boiling, bubbling heat like when you can use a cornstarch. There is a chance that the roux that you put in will start to clump up on you, and once it clumps up on you, there's not much you can do about it. It's too late. So, um, yeah, so turn the heat down, let it simmer for a little bit, then you can go ahead and add in your roux. And when you add in your roux, you want to just add in a little bit at a time and keep it rolling, keep it mixing. Don't just dump everything in at one time. You'll set the roux to the bottom. It'll just start to burn, turn into dough balls, and you're done. Next thing you know, you're going to be scraping this stuff off and redoing the whole thing. The one thing I will say, if you're using a roux, like flour, um, if you're gonna freeze this dish, then you don't want to use like a flour type of roux. What's gonna happen is it's gonna just once you put it in the freezer, you thaw it out. It's gonna be just really clumpy, really lumpy, and you'll never get that out. If you think you're going to be freezing it, uh, use like a cornstarch to thicken it instead of using a roux. When you use the roux to thicken it, it's really heavy. If freezing it's just not going to work for this. All right, um, so remember, you know, with cornstarch, it's fine if you freeze it. The problem with cornstarch is it's gonna get really watered down and loose in a day or so. Even in the refrigerator, you're gonna have to thicken it back up again. With a flour, it maintains its body, but when you freeze it on the flour, it'll start clumping up, and you'll never get those clumps out. Now that we added in all our roux, we get this back up to a slow boil. You need to cook the roux. Otherwise, you'll end up with like a flour, chalky type of taste. So check the consistency. This is about what you want. It stick to the spoon. You can see our onions are translucent. They're perfect. By now, your house is smelling like really amazing. So I think we're done. The consistency looks really good here, and all I'm gonna do is add in some shoyu. Well, actually soy sauce. Shoyu to what the Hawaii local people know it as. Soy sauce to everybody else. just but it's mainly for just color, but it does add a lot of good flavoring to it. And if you want to have it a little darker, you can just add a little more. You can also add in some kitchen bouquet if you like, and it'll do about the same thing. It'll give it some flavor. It'll also give it some coloring to it. I'm going to give this a quick taste and make any adjustments if needed. This is where you customize the flavor to your liking. If you want more salt, fine. You want more pepper, okay. More garlic flavoring, go ahead, right? Uh, unless I'm doing a marinade, I don't add any seasonings up front. We'll add it in the middle and at the end. So Dad always said to go slow. You can always add, but you cannot, or it's very difficult for you to take out. Most of the times, you're always going to have to make some kind of adjustments. But in this case, this tastes really good. So I'm going to get it in the serving dish. And there you go. This looks and smells amazing. And it tastes great. I already tasted it, but I'm going to give it another taste test only because I really can't stop eating this. This is great. And get some celery and some meat in here. So delicious. The amount I made will easily feed 6 people and will take about an hour to make. If you, like me, cook your meat the day before, then your cooking time is down to about half an hour. So if you cook your meat the day before, right, just leave the meat in that liquid, in that broth, and just put it in your refrigerator overnight. If you take that meat out of that and just leave it in the refrigerator dry, what's going to happen, it won't dry out that much, but what's going to happen is the edges of that meat, of your meat, will start to turn really dark brown and get kind of hard on it. So it's best just to leave it in the liquid. And the next morning, what you can do, or the next day, what you can do is just take all that oil that coagulates on the top and turns, that hard white shell-like thing. You can just take that grease and that oil, scoop it out. Makes it really easy. Strain up your broth. Get all the vegetables that were in there. Just get all that out. Strain it out real nice, and you will have a nice clean broth for your gravy. So, as usual, the ingredients and the quantities will be listed in the description below. So please give this a try. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to be notified of any new videos I make. Mahalo for watching, and I'll see you next time. Aloha.